if there is something that will ever be a consensus price, I can't imagine anything that would be better than this. So in terms of what it changes, it has a potential to change the ground level of a lot of things. Besides the consensus nature of the UTXOracle price, is that it's not paper trading. So prices you see on exchanges can include like a large amount of paper trading prices, which UTXOracle, would never see. This is not just a new kind of money. Like, this is an invention in computer science. I'm in this world of like Nobel Peace Prize level inventions, and when I saw that, I was like, no, this is Nobel Peace Prize work. Like, this is a breakthrough in several areas of academics simultaneously. I'm a big believer in you have to be better. You have to be superior. Bitcoin is a superior money, superior financial system, superior sound money, superior settlement.
All right, welcome back to another Byte Federal podcast. Our guest today is Simple Steve, the creator of UTXOracle. Steve, how are you?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing very well. Your UTXOracle is a very fun and exciting new piece of tech in our space, and but you're also very new to me. I didn't know much about you, and our producer told me a little bit about your history. And wow, man, you're like an interesting dude. You've done some pretty cool stuff.
Oh, thanks. Yeah. Well, if you're in the space for a long enough time and it consumes all of your mental energy like Bitcoin does for a lot of us, and you can't stop thinking about it, eventually you'll do some cool stuff, I think.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about how you found Bitcoin and where it started to jive for you.
Oh, I'm a pretty OG guy, 2012-ish, and victim of a financial meltdown in 2008, economic crisis. I owned a house in Florida and lost half its value. And then also I'm pretty like technically trained and kind of an artsy curious guy. Was in a PhD program in 2012, and a fellow friend of mine in my PhD program told me about it. He was from Southern California University. You know that place where a lot of people think that Satoshi might have spent some time, where Hal Finney was at, Caltech.
Mm-hmm.
And so he did his undergrad in Caltech, and he told me about this. He said a lot of people there were into it. And I was like, well, this is what the world absolutely needs, but I sure there's a man behind the curtain somewhere.
Right.
I was like, there's no way it could be totally decentralized. No way. So started digging in, and sure enough, totally decentralized. From that day forward, I've just been all in. I just knew this was going to change the world. Like, I knew there's just no doubt in my mind still today. Yeah.
That's awesome. Wow,
Yeah.
that's really cool. What was it about it that like immediately, like what was that moment, right? I think we all have this like moment where it's like, boom, you just hit with this reality. Was it anything particular in the code? Was it Satoshi's writings? Was it the financial aspect?
Um, I was not I was not very into like economic theory. Like, I took basic econ, micro and macro, and school and stuff. So I had the basic stuff, but I had never thought deeply about like sound money and printing money and inflation and stuff like that. That came later for me. But I remember the last little thing that I had to do, what I was just like, how does every single node like know how many blocks have been made, how many how much Bitcoin has been mined, and then how do they all reconfigure themselves when blocks are coming out too fast? Like, how do they just do that without anybody telling them to? And then, like, when the difficulty adjustment of Bitcoin, like every single node counts the number of blocks and measures the time it takes to get the blocks, and every node synchronously all decides to change their difficulty at the same time. That was the moment that I was just like, oh my God, this is not just a new kind of money. Like, this is an invention in computer science. I'm in this world. I was a postdoc at Oxford, and I'm in this world of like Nobel Peace Prize level inventions. And when I saw that, I was like, no, this is Nobel Peace Prize work. Like this is a breakthrough in several areas of academics simultaneously. Like this is just world changing.
Wow. I've heard
Yeah,
that before. I've heard other people that are much are really in deep into the technology always come back to saying it the difficulty adjustment
yeah,
is the thing that like changed it for me. Can
yeah.
you explain to a non-technical person like the brilliance of that in a way we might grok it?
Sure. So you know, the people, the normie, when one of the reasons they come up with it, they're like somebody could break Bitcoin or somebody could figure out how to print so much money. They're like, oh, it's just a matter of computing power. Like if you have a big enough computer, like you can mine blocks faster, and they would be right if it wasn't for the difficulty adjustment. So Bitcoin miners are, constantly trying to fit the latest transactions into a block and then add like a magic random number to the block. And, it takes how much computing power determines how fast you can guess this magic random number with all the transactions. And yeah, if it weren't for the difficulty adjustment, yeah, whoever had the biggest computer power could just mine all the Bitcoin in like a day or something. Well, not a day, but the difficulty adjustment is constantly looking at, is somebody like, you know, cranking out blocks like way faster than they should be? And if they are, then the whole network just dynamically adjusts. It's just like, nope, too many blocks have been coming out. We need to make that magic number a lot harder to find.
Mm-hmm.
And every node just makes that magic number a lot harder to find immediately. And this is so central to sound money
Wow.
because, yeah.
I mean that just blows my mind that somebody had the foresight to figure that out and
Oh
that
my God. Yeah. It's amazing, man. If you're not thinking
and it
about Bitcoin,
creates this arms race, right? This mining arms race that just continues forever.
yeah, it does. And it's such a wonderful thing because, like I said, I wasn't really an expert in economics and energy and stuff like that when I started. I learned from Saifedean and all
Hmm.
the shoulders of giants that we stand on now. And yeah, I mean, because it requires so much energy, that requires us to produce more energy. And like the cleanest energy is like the cheapest to produce. And so Bitcoin is just going to inspire this world of massive clean energy production in like rural areas of the world, and like give economies to places that couldn't have an economy before.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, it's
amazing.
happening in real time. Do you
Yeah.
think that so with the difficulty adjustment, is that a major deterrent to any quantum threat?
Um,
Or is that
Uh,
totally different?
sh- sure, we can talk about that. Yeah, so I studied quantum mechanics pretty deeply at like PhD level in Johns Hopkins. And I think it's going back to my screen again, Jacob, if you want to switch it off. But I am I'm a sell the news guy on quantum mechanics,
Okay.
quantum computing. There's not really evidence to me that quantum computing scales exponentially. Um, I mean, sure, it's getting better, but everything's getting better. Like, what's the rate at which quantum computing is getting better? Most analog technologies in the world get better linearly. Like cars, airplanes, stuff like this, furniture, refrigerators. Maybe they're getting worse. I don't know, but we are misled with the digital computer into thinking that all technologies scale like the digital computer scales. The digital computer's Moore's law scaling exponentially is not natural. And quantum computing is an analog technology. Okay,
Really? Okay.
quantum computing is, waves. You know, it's these sinusoidal waves like stacked up against each other, and looking at probability distributions and stuff like this. It's not digital technology. I mean, I could be wrong, and there could be like a huge breakthrough in quantum computing, like nobody knows. But right now, I'm betting on the continual linear growth of quantum computing, and I think it's going to be a long, long time before it's a problem. Even if it is a problem, like there's plenty of ways around it.
Yeah.
Like it's no big deal.
Right on. Now, so just since we're kind of going through some of your background and we're
Mhm.
learning more and more, Jacob also told me that you spent some time with NASA. Is that correct?
Yeah. My first job out of NASA, I was just really lucky, fell in my lap. I got a internship through the local career office at my university, and yeah, one of my first jobs out of school was well, I was with Cisco Systems first, and then I got a job at Cape Canaveral, Florida,
Wow,
right on the launch pads. Yeah, just
crazy.
in the control rooms for the unmanned rockets that take the satellites and like the Mars rovers and the interplanetary explorers and stuff like that. I was looking at coding up software to monitor the information streams, all the technical data coming off the sensors of the rockets, and trying to compile that information and display it. Sometimes I think about that experience, and I'm like kind of using my NASA telemetry display skills for the Oracle a little bit here.
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
That's cool. That's
yeah,
cool. Wow, dude, you had quite a background.
yeah,
That's impressive.
yeah. Thanks.
And to do all that, and then from what I understand today, you own a bar.
Now I own a bar. Yeah,
Yeah.
I've
So
rise.
how does that circle of life
Yeah,
happen?
yeah. I rose to the top.
I
Uh,
mean, you could say it depends on your
yes,
view of the world, right?
that's right. It was like NASA, PhD, Oxford, postdoc, bar manager. You know, like now I spend. Oh, I think my Riverside just crashed out again, Jacob. But I'm gonna try to reopen it. Um, but yeah, like, well, I mean, Bitcoin. I have just Bitcoin to thank. I mean, Bitcoin. Obviously, I was in early, and the university was getting too political for me. And because of Bitcoin, I had savings. I could take some time off, think about what I wanted to do, and all my time, especially when I like lost everything in Florida in 2008. Like I had to go back to bartending. I literally was just had $500
Wow.
and $5 bills in my pocket in 2012, and I gave all that money to Bitcoin. I
Right.
was I was flat broke, just bartending on the weekends. And I think most of the people that work in the restaurant and service industries, like they look back at that time and like the camaraderie they built
Hmm.
with people and friends, and just I was so lacking of like family and community and stuff like this. And so the bar that I went to one of the meetups for Bitcoin, the original owner of that bar was a Bitcoiner.
Oh, cool.
And this bar was about 2 blocks away from the house I grew up in.
Wow. Meant to be.
And yeah, so I just got to be real good friends with the owner. You know, I was going to be friends with her anyway. Like it wasn't like I was just,
Yeah.
dead set on behind it. But yeah, she's still a good friend of mine, and she decided to move to the beach. So right place, right time, and now we have the Bitcoin meetups at my bar. Man, it's kind of a dream come true.
That's awesome. And what's the name of the bar?
It's called Crafty.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, Raleigh, North
Nice.
Carolina. Yeah, come on out.
Awesome, man. That's awesome. You guys got the Bitcoin meetups there.
Yeah,
Are you accepting Bitcoin payments there too?
trying to. Right now, I'm selling gift cards for Bitcoin payments. I mean, for Crafty gift cards for Bitcoin. For yeah, I feel like this needs to be said to a broader audience. Yes, there's X Pub in New York that takes Bitcoin. Every bartender at X Pub is a Bitcoin expert, a Lightning
Right.
expert. Okay, I don't require my bartenders to do that. It's right now we have a lot of problems with the integrations of different Lightning wallets. They all say they have like standard fixed permanent pay to addresses, but they don't work across platforms. even something like paying from Strike to Cash App Lightning is not easy when you're talking about these Bolt 12 like fixed Lightning addresses. How does the customer add a tip to their amount? How do the bartenders split this stuff at the end of the night? If you're not a Bitcoin expert, and I love my bartenders, they're very super friendly and they're part of the community too. And I'm not going to say they can't work for me if they don't become a Lightning expert.
Right.
So yeah,
Yeah,
right
we
now,
need to chat after
yeah.
this recording because
Okay.
we have a POS in beta and we have it
Okay.
at different restaurants, gas
Oh, sweet.
stations, and yeah, so we're always trying to learn and make it better. So we need to powwow, right?
Oh,
Because we
yeah.
need people
That's
that
right.
will tell us like we need Bitcoiners on the front end, right?
Yeah.
Saying like this is the problem that people run into because, like you said, like that gas station teller runs into a problem. They're like, ah, that thing doesn't work, right?
Right.
As opposed to like, oh, that's an innovative piece of technology. I should give
Yeah.
them feedback, and this is the problem we ran into. They don't even know what the problem is to begin with. So, yeah, man,
Right.
we should chat. We should chat
Yeah.
because
I mean,
there's a future there.
there is a future, but there's a lot of work to be done. I mean, because like,
100%.
how do you start a tab?
Yeah.
You
Yeah,
know,
I know, dude. I
like
know.
the credit cards solve a lot of problems.
Yeah.
And I think Bitcoin is the sound money of the world. Like it has fixed a problem in
It's almost like
sound money. Like,
you need to
uh,
run a node at the restaurant
I
and
know.
have like DLCs in the node that are like running tabs and like it gets like super complex when you
So
start to like
complicated.
and then
Like,
figure out like
yeah.
how do we just make this thing super simple, you
Yeah,
know?
I
But
mean, Bitcoin has like I'm a big believer in like you have to be better. You have to be superior. Bitcoin is a superior money, superior financial system, superior sound money, superior settlement. If the layer 2 is not superior to Visa, Bitcoin
yeah,
doesn't grow through shame, okay? You don't shame people into using an
right.
inferior product.
Yeah,
Lightning
yeah,
has to be better than a credit card.
yeah,
Has to be better, or
yeah.
it's not going to work. And don't like shame people into not using it.
Right. Exactly. Exactly. Awesome.
Yeah.
So let's jump into UTX Oracle. How
Okay.
like tell me about like where the idea came from and how this emerged out of I guess looking at your node.
Yeah. I'm going to rejoin and hopefully get it back on the screen again.
Okay.
So I've known this was a possible for a long time actually. I started rendering these heat maps in like 2016, 2017. So every night I just have my automated computer program just compile every Bitcoin transaction into these massive heat maps with like billions of data points. And I just like kind of study them and just look at patterns of transactions and stuff. And yeah, it was pretty clear to me like 2017, 2018. I was like, man, look at this. People are sending round amounts of US dollars. That's $100. That's $100. And because the Bitcoin price changes every day, these $100 clusters of transactions were moving. You know,
Wow,
they're,
maybe like because
yeah.
I just jumped right in it because I know a little bit about what
Oh,
you've done
okay.
already, and I've
Yeah.
but let's go back for the new guy who's
Oh,
maybe just
okay.
hearing about this for the
Sure.
first time,
Yeah.
and just I think we probably need to describe what a UTXO is
Oh,
first,
yeah. Okay.
and
Sure.
then go
Yeah.
into the
Yeah.
Oracle and how you saw the price data there.
Yeah. Okay, great. Yeah. So Bitcoin transactions, if you have Bitcoin, that means you have a Bitcoin UTXO. So UTXO stands for unspent Bitcoin transaction. And if you have unspent Bitcoin transactions, that means you have Bitcoin because in order to get Bitcoin, someone has to send you Bitcoin or you have to mine it. Either way, once you receive this Bitcoin, it is stored on the blockchain in what's called an unspent Bitcoin transaction. So if someone sends me zero point 0.1 Bitcoin, then on the Bitcoin blockchain, there is zero point 0.1 unspent Bitcoin transaction, meaning unspent by its current owner, meaning me. So yeah, so we use the word UTXO to talk about basically you can think about it like as an Excel spreadsheet with rows. Just this blockchain is just a constantly growing spreadsheet, and as soon as you spend the Bitcoin, that row gets grayed out.
Mm-hmm.
It's no longer active, and then all of the spreadsheet entries that are still white and active, like those are the unspent Bitcoin. Those are,
And when you spend it,
uh,
it's going to create two new active fields, right? Like if you're going to
mhm.
send that $100 of Bitcoin and to buy a $20 item, you're going to have an $80 field and a $20 field out of that 100 that gets grayed out. Is that correct?
Right,
Way to think of it?
exactly. Yeah. So, yeah, you can't go and edit the row. You can't
Mm-hmm.
go in there and like make changes to it. You have to destroy the row and create new rows. And the two new rows that you create will add up to the total of the previous row, minus any transaction fee that you pay to the miners. But yeah, just like kind of taking $100 bill out to Crafty, bring
Mm-hmm.
$100 bill to Crafty,
Mm-hmm.
and buy a beer, and then you get your change back in new UTXOs.
Yeah. Great.
Mm.
So that's the UTXO, and then you, by watching the data, watching the transactions per block, you
Hmm.
start to see sort of repetition in the transactions. This started to indicate pricing.
Yes. So let's take a simple example. Back in January, Bitcoin was pretty much right at $100,000. You remember that? We're
Mm-hmm.
recording this in April 2025. Um, so if you think about $100,000, if you wanted to send somebody exactly $100, you would send zero point zero 0.01 Bitcoin. So on the blockchain, I would, because people send $100 to each other all the time back in that days, the amount of zero point zero zero 0.001 Bitcoin transactions was just insane, and
Mm-hmm.
that's a tight cluster. People don't mess around. They don't send $99. They don't send
Mm-hmm.
$102. People send $100. So it's a tight band.
Do
And
you think
yeah,
this is driven by people like DCAing
I
100,
think so.
100,
Yeah.
100?
Yeah, DCA. But to be honest with you, embarrassingly, as much as I've studied this,
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I can give you a list of things. So people buy a Visa gift card for $100. People get $100 in a ATM transaction. People do $100 DCA, send $100 to their friend. Yeah, back and forth from exchanges and even amounts of dollars. Maybe there's something going on with Tether. Like maybe there's a weird kind of people converting Tether to Bitcoin and even $100. There's Yeah, I mean, but the simple way to explain it is like just be honest with yourself. Last time you sent some of my Bitcoin, was it an even amount? Yeah, it
Right.
was. Like, it was an even amount of dollars. Like this isn't 2013 anymore. We're not sending round amounts of Bitcoin.
Right.
But yeah,
And so that
yeah.
$100 increment becomes relevant because it indicates from the charts I've seen like this consistent
Mhm.
line that you can track relative to the price, whatever the price of Bitcoin is. People are sending this $100, and it's sort of painting this line of value
Right.
through the transactions, and then you can increment it right from there.
Right. So what I was saying about how I discovered UTXOracle, this is a sample example of the kind of heat maps that I've been generating on Bitcoin these past decade or so. This is every transaction output. So this is every UTXO that was created in the past 4 years. You can see the time axis on the bottom here. This was from between 2022 and 2023. And the y axis is the amount of Bitcoin in the transaction. So these are people sending really small amount of sats down here. And these are people sending 100 Bitcoin, 1,000 Bitcoin. You can see that the most frequent amount of Bitcoin to send is around 0.01, 0.001, because this is the range, $50, $100. And this color map, by the way, is log scale. So as big a difference as you see in these colors here, it's even more than you think. Blue and purple are like 10 transactions. Yellow and white are like 100, is like 1,000 or 10,000 transactions. So this is an enormous difference in the density of transactions that happen
Right.
in the range of $150. And did you have a question there, or do you want me to keep going?
No, but I mean,
Okay.
I'm assuming that where we see these clearly defined lines, that's just maximum density of number of
Yes.
transactions at a level, right? Which is drawing these lines.
Yes, exactly. So, if you can see, the biggest thing that pops out are these, I call them traces, right? Because they're like all parallel to each other, but they're not exactly lines. So all of these traces that you're seeing are the different round denominations of US dollars. The brightest one here is $100, and second brightest one is $1,000. And then if you go up a decade from there, you'll see $1,000. It goes all the way down to $1. Like, even
Wow.
though like transaction fees are, so sometimes transaction fees are more than $1, people will still send a dollar just
That's wild.
because they want a dollar transaction, or for some reason. And so, there's you can see every round number. People don't like sending like $6, but people will send one, two, three, four, and five, and
Interesting. And then jump
sometimes,
to 10.
and then they jump to 10, and it happens in like, and also in hundreds. People will send $100, $200, $300, $400, $500, and then no one sends $600. They skip to
God,
$1,000.
I just keep thinking about like the DCA apps that have the
Yeah.
preset ranges, and people are just
Yeah.
like, click, go.
Yeah. But I use everything I can find. I mean,
Mhm.
everything is in. I mean, if there's anybody sending around $600, then I'm going to use that to find the price.
Mhm.
So yeah. So in the other, you can see the other straight lines here, the perfectly straight lines. Maybe you can see that one right
Yeah.
there. That's exactly 1 Bitcoin. So there are some people that still send round amounts of Bitcoin, but you
Mhm.
can see it's dominated by round amounts of dollars these days.
Interesting. That's interesting. All
Yeah.
right. So, I mean, this will be like an indication of a move to unit of account as well. That would shift this whole chart eventually.
Eventually, but
Eventually, yeah, it's going to be a ways.
it's got to beat Bitcoin's got to beat credit cards first.
Crafty's got to be able to handle that.
Yeah, exactly.
A
Yeah.
$2.37 transaction.
Right. Yeah. I kind of think one of the next steps before we get direct point of sale is going to be people paying off their credit card bills every month in Bitcoin. I mean, I essentially lived that way.
Hmm.
I was broke and unemployed, and I was living off Bitcoin for a couple of years there, actually, when I was trying to figure out what I wanted out of life. And which is great. Bitcoin savings allows you to have some free time and change careers. I mean, it's really wonderful. But in that period, I was doing exactly that. I was just spending on my credit card, and then once a
Hmm.
month, I would just sell a little bit of Bitcoin to pay off my credit card. And I think that's going to be a big deal in the future. I think we're going to see Bitcoin settlement transactions once a month, sooner than we see, point of sale.
Right. Yeah, good point.
Yeah.
So once you started looking at this and you started seeing this price data,
Hmm.
what do you see the implications of this? Because like we're generating price signals now without an exchange. Well, I mean,
Hmm.
I'm sorry, the exchange is happening, but you're generating price signal in at the node or at the block level,
Hmm. Yeah.
and you're picking this up every block, or
Every block. Yep. Every block had, well, that's a good question. Most blocks, there's like a block every once in a while where, somebody's doing some massive need and they ended up buying up all the block space, and there's not price information in every block. And that's why with like the new UTXOracle tool I made, I don't give you an average every block. I mean, I do on my live stream, with the caveat that like this is an estimate. You know, there might not be any information recently, but within a 24-hour period, it's absolutely. I mean, there's 100,000 data points with price information every day that I've tested this. We never go a whole day without significant price information in blocks.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So what do you foresee use cases here? Like where do you see this providing value when we've got exchanges? I mean, I could think of one right off the top of my head, right? I'm sitting here thinking, man, if we have a closing price every day, every 24
Mm-hmm.
hours, and I had Bitcoin as collateral in a loan,
Mm-hmm.
and a fat finger or a wick down would have taken me out at any given minute at the exchange. But if we were to look at the closing daily price here, I survived that downdraft.
Yeah.
Like where do you see uptake in this kind of price data?
I think it's, I mean, I'm obviously biased and I'm maybe full of like some excitement and energy at this point because I'm so happy about the software I've made recently that but there is definitely a way, and this is going to change everything. Um can I just show you like the
Please.
one of the outputs? Okay, so I won't run it quite yet. In a little bit, I can show you how to run it yourself. But this is the output of running UTXOracle yourself. So this runs directly on any local Bitcoin node. And what it does is it pulls in all of the data from whatever date you give it. You can run it. If you just click enter, it runs yesterday, but you can enter in whatever date you want. And it pulls all of the transactions from all of the blocks on that day. And I'm using UTC day here. I can maybe add an option to do like closing, New York Stock Exchange time or something. But right now it does every block on the day, midnight to midnight UTC. And this is every Bitcoin transaction that had some kind of price information. This was every Bitcoin transaction that was near a round amount of USD. And so this is, this is something like 50,000 data points or something. And this is the price range that it found for yesterday. It found the average of $94,055. And all this data just came directly from your node. And the reason I'm calling this a consensus price here is because everyone who runs this will get not just the exact same consensus price, everyone will get exact same dot in this chart. Every single dot will be identical for everyone that runs this data. There won't be a speck of difference. It's just like Bitcoin. And so if you have this strong of a price signal, and like, it's a solid, like you can't deny that it's like the price is there. And everyone gets the identical one, then the reason I think this could be a big deal, and we're at the start of this, so who knows what could happen, but is that like there's nothing else that could be called a consensus price. Like what could you, I mean, you don't, Coinbase's database, like Binance's database, there's never been any such thing as a consensus Bitcoin price. I don't know that, like I said, like, it's a little bit overhyped at this point. But if there is something that will ever be a consensus price, I can't imagine anything that will be better than this. So in terms of what it changes, I don't know like the specific use case application of it right now. I'm sure there's a million of them, but I think it's more of just something that has a potential to change the ground level of a lot of things. Yeah. What do you think?
I just, right off the top of my head, from coming from the trust and estate management world,
Hmm.
you know, where when somebody passes away, you've got to figure out the value of their assets at the date of death.
Right.
And when you start to look at that with Bitcoin, you start to look across all these different exchanges.
Hmm.
You've got all sorts of different pricing.
Yeah.
And there's lots of questions as to what is the real price. And if somebody's got a big bag, it could be a significant difference between one exchange and another. Which,
Yeah.
you know, so
Right.
this is sort of a consensus, like you said, the consensus price would be an honest way, the most honest way to come to like what was the global price on that given day.
Right. I think it is the most honest way. I mean, I'm not going to say that Bitcoin, that UTXOracle is, foolproof. Every day I'm thinking of ways to make this more robust against, someone trying to attack it or intentionally skew the price. Right now, with everything's working perfectly and everyone is just honest actors, yes, I think this is absolutely the default, should be the default consensus price. There is, if someone were to buy up all the block space in a day, there wouldn't be a price that day. And so it does have a cost, right? So there is a
Mm-hmm.
cost, there is a price you can pay to remove all US price information from the chain. So that's a downside to it. Um, so I'm in terms of like official financial records from the government or something like that, we'd have to figure out how to protect against that. But for maybe a smaller use case, just using this as a contract settlement,
Mm-hmm.
for some kind of options trading or something that needs an oracle,
Yeah.
then the cost, at least we know the cost to game it. you know,
Yeah. Yeah. Right.
uh,
And then you
yeah,
could create, right. The options one is another one that
yeah,
I was thinking about in terms of, you know, especially like when you have a settlement date off into the future and you could
mhm,
agree upon price to execute the option.
yeah.
And, you know, an exchange is more easily manipulated than this, right?
Yeah, right. That's the question when people talk about, this is you can game this, and I get like a little bit defensive and I'm like, "No, but it's so cool." I'm like, "Yeah, but I mean, you can game everything." So,
Yeah.
at least, and maybe this is a little cheaper to game than Coinbase, but we don't know. We know how much it costs to game this thing.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Huh. And this thing is running in real time, and you can do
Mhm.
future. I mean, not future. You can do past dates. Do you see? Is there potentially a way that this could correlate to people trading peer to peer?
Yes, absolutely. So, one thing that UTX Oracle has that exchange prices don't, and to be honest, most of the things UTX Oracle gets are downstream of exchange prices, because when people
Hmm.
are sending that $100 to their friend, chances are they're looking up what the price is, or their wallet just automatically looks up the price from some API from some exchange, and then once they use that price to make that transaction, then UTX Oracle discovers what price they used. So for the most part, UTX Oracle prices are like an aggregation of all of the different ways, all of the different exchange prices. It's kind of a natural average of all of them. But in another way, UTX Oracle has information they don't have, because if instead of using your wallet app, if you and your friend just use the calculator app on your phone, and you just decided what $100 was in Bitcoin based on an exchange price or a price that you negotiated, as long as it's close to what other the exchange price is used, then that data point has price information that the exchange never sees. It never appears on an order book. So in that sense, UTX Oracle does have like fresh P2P price information that doesn't appear anywhere else. It's probably not a lot, but
Hmm.
yeah, it definitely has some new information.
Yeah, that is interesting too when you start thinking about sovereign use of,
Right.
meaning like if you have like Saudi Arabia and China doing oil deals in Bitcoin down the road, they're
Hmm.
probably not going to do that on an exchange, I wouldn't think.
Yeah, it's going to be peer to peer. And they're probably, of course, they're going to use their best averages of the exchange prices when they make that deal. And then guess what? UTX Oracle gets all that work they put into finding those
Hmm.
averages,
Right. But think about
Yeah.
like that can be done in gold today. You could do a peer-to-peer transaction in gold for oil, and nobody gets a record of that price.
Right. Yeah. I mean, with still the caveat's got to be a round amount of US dollars. But yeah,
Interesting.
maybe there's something similar for gold. Maybe there's like a perfect 1 ounce of gold line. Find the 1 ounce of gold trace in the heat map.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
That'd be very
That's
cool.
crazy. Wow.
Um,
Probably need LiDAR to figure that one out.
yeah. I'll do it, man. I love looking at this stuff. I'll search through this stuff all day. Yeah, you mentioned that there was a live version of this. Can I show you the live
Yeah.
version, and
Yeah.
then
Great.
at the end I'll just show you how everyone can run it from their node? Is that cool?
Cool. Perfect.
Um, so if you just go to UTXO.pro, just the letters UTXO.pro, you'll see the first thing that should pop up. So it redirects to my kind of like project page where I have all the source code and everything. It's UTXO live/Oracle, but you can get there from UTXO.pro. And the first thing that will show up is live streaming YouTube feed of my mempool. So I told you that, um, because not all latest blocks have price information, the mempool side of this is going to be different for different people. People have different mempools. Latest block might not have price information. You might get a different block than somebody else. Like there are chain tips, there's orphan blocks, there's things that happen on the tip of the chain that are not consensus. But for the most part, 99% of the time, you will see the price growing live in the mempool at UTXO.pro. And so this is the absolute most up-to-date information you can get for the Oracle. So check that out if you're interested in the live stuff. But if you're more of a sovereign guy and more interested in running this yourself, which was kind of the purpose in the first place, I just did the YouTube thing because everybody asked me to. Click here, run local. And so there you'll see just simple instructions on how to run it yourself. So you just want to download this program. You gotta be a little bit of technical here. Like you have to be running a node on your computer and you have to be able to open a command window. That's kind of the level of technical you have to be at. People are asking me, like, am I going to make this for the third-party node products like Start9 and Umbrel, and I don't know, there was like 5 or 6 other ones. The answer to that is yes. It's just I'm first making this for the people that run Bitcoin Core directly, because everything I do for all the third parties has got to be like some kind of modification of the core version. So I'm kind of doing the core version first. And so you just open a command window. Curl is kind of like the command window, the command terminal version of download this file off the internet for me, CURL. So you just type curl in there into your terminal window. You got to be running a Bitcoin Core node on your machine. This is my Bitcoin Core node right here. I'm just running it on a MacBook Air right now. It does not take a lot of processing power at all. And then to run it, you just type Python 3 UTXOracle.py. And it just starts running. Not sure if you can see the font. It's kind of small there, but it just tells you the current operation. It's connecting to the node. It's finding all the blocks. It's determining the correct order of the blocks on that day. And this is all information that it gets directly from core. So it will find your core It'll probably run out of the box. You might have to like set a username or core config if you're running an old version of core, but this will probably work right out of the box. Um, so after it gets that information from core, it finds where the block data is stored on your hard drive, because I found that this is a much more efficient way of reading block information. And then it loads every transaction from every block. You can see it just takes about a minute or so to do that. And this is, hundreds of thousands of data points here. And then it finds the price and renders the plot. So
Cool.
that was the plot and the plot just pops up in your browser. And so you wanted to do, I think I already pulled up the date you were
Yeah.
interested in.
Yeah. So there's some of you nerds out there will be wondering.
Yeah, there
Um,
it is.
Josh Mandel,
Yeah.
who did a prediction on Bitcoin for March 14th, 2025 of 84K. And you ran that day. And what
Yeah.
did you get?
March 14th was an interesting day, and I'm glad we're bringing this up because the Oracle does not always give a perfect straight line. And a lot of times it's because on that day there was a lot of volatility,
Mm-hmm.
or different exchanges had different prices, or people were paying a lot in transaction fees to get transactions through very quickly. And some people who thought they sent
Interesting.
$100 at noon had to wait until like 3 o'clock before their transaction got through. So you can see on March 14th, 2025, we had a lot of volatility. Let's see. So this is 83.6. This is 85.6. So 84.6 is right here. So we definitely got above 84,000 throughout the day.
But wouldn't the final price is where your cursor is now, roughly?
Yeah,
The
you're
final
telling
price for
me.
the day
Yeah. Well, this is the
on
average.
UTC time?
Yeah, this is UTC time. This would be UTC midnight. So UTC midnight happens at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So, that'd be like
That looks pretty close to 84.
three hours earlier than that would have been right here. You know what? Because I'm doing this in JavaScript now,
Uh-huh.
I can actually make a hover. I was doing this in like PNG images before. There's a lot of big improvements between version 8 and version 9. Yeah, I can make that a hover that just tells you where your mouse is at. That'll be easy actually.
Oh, yeah, that would be really cool.
Yeah, that's no problem actually. Yeah, thanks for that. I haven't, like I said, this is the first time talking about this new version, exclusive release for Byte Federal. So yeah,
But this is a massive amount of
yeah.
gapping in price, right?
Oh yeah, big time. So look, we are going from 81 to 85, all throughout the day. What is that? Is that 7-8% fluctuating up and down? Is this because it was the day that this guy
I have no idea. I have no
had
idea. But it's interesting
pronounced?
how as you get towards 24 hours on
Hmm.
UTC time, it just the price gets tighter and tighter and tighter.
Yeah, that
And
is
it
kind of
looks like, I mean,
interesting.
right there at the end of the day, it's pretty darn close to 84.
Yeah, and this is definitely in my list of most volatile days. So
Really?
I've been studying the most volatile days, and this is one of them for sure. I don't want people to think that this is what a normal day looks like. Another volatile day. Oh, actually, yeah, let me go ahead and show you this. So if you want to run the Oracle in historical mode, if you can see my cursor here,
Hmm.
you type -H at the end of it, 2025. I'm going to do the election day, or not the election day, but the inauguration day for the U.S. president here. 2025-01-20. That was the day, I believe. So yeah, this will just take like a minute or two here. Yeah, right now all the dates that I've tested back to 2020, December 2023. There's previous. If you wanted to go back further than 2023, you can use previous versions of the Oracle. But it takes a while to just test all possible dates. So right now I've just tested version 9 back to December 2023. But yeah, you should be able to type in any date you want. So yeah, ripping out those transactions right now. Also under the hood now, it's filtering out transactions that are unlikely to have price information.
Okay.
Yeah, so round amounts of Bitcoin, ordinals, inscriptions, things that are just way too low, things that are just way too high. And a couple of spam protection attacks I filter out as well, like people sending the same Bitcoin over and over to themselves a million times a day. Like I take that out of there too.
What would, just out of curiosity, I don't know the answer to this, but how would
So there's the consensus price for January 20th,
oh,
2025.
wow. That's a mess.
It's a mess. Yeah. Showing you all the bad ones now.
Oh my God.
I interrupted you though. What was your question?
No, I was just thinking about like a Tornado Cash transaction or something going through a blender.
Those are taken out as well.
Okay.
Yeah, because those have a large amount of inputs and also a large amount of outputs. And so I don't allow transactions like that. It's another way that I protect against attacks. I know I'm losing out on some price information by doing that. It's kind of like a trade-off I have to make. Let me just run like a day earlier. Let's go to April 10th here, just so I can get a couple clean ones in there. Yeah, so it's a trade-off, and I've thought about, should I just be a little bit more lenient with this stuff, because I could get a lot more price information. So I'm kind of evaluating that. Anything with a lot of inputs and a lot of outputs, I consider them non-peer-to-peer. That's what kind of like my design philosophy was like, okay, what I'm looking for is peer-to-peer transaction. A peer-to-peer transaction has like, a handful of inputs, maybe you need more than one, dollar bill or whatever. And it's got basically two outputs. It's got the person you were sending to, and then it's got your change address. So right now you have to be a transaction that has 5 or less inputs and exactly 2 outputs. And it's amazing that even with that high of a restriction, I get this amount of data.
Yeah.
So I could double this amount of data easily, but I would be a little bit more exposed to attack. So trade off there. It looks so like it's
April 10th, you said? Yeah, April 10th.
Yeah, so this is April 10th.
Yeah.
Man, how come we can't get a good price going up day? What was it good? April 19th or something? Wasn't there a big spike on like the 19th or 20th or something?
I think so.
I won't keep running these. I know you gotta go in a little bit.
This is interesting stuff.
Okay.
Well, yeah. What was this day? This is the 20th, 2021 were pretty good days.
Okay, I'm running 20th right now. The step here is determining the correct order of blocks. This was something I learned. Like when I just tried to read the block data myself, I was like, this doesn't look right. And it turns out it's because Bitcoin Core is storing like blocks, orphan blocks, and blocks out of order and something like that. Bitcoin Core is doing a great service for you by always finding what the longest chain is. So it's keeping in active memory at all times what the longest chain is. If you're trying to do what I'm doing and you're trying to read the block data yourself, you have to determine what the longest chain is yourself. Or you can just ask Core. So gotcha. I ended up just asking Core for like, what is the longest chain? And then once it tells me which block hashes they are, then I read the block hashes directly from the binary files. So yeah, like 10 years of doing this stuff, I've been trying to optimize block reading for like 10 years. um, so I feel like I finally
You get
just finally
it.
get it here.
Oh yeah, that's pretty tight.
Yeah, that was a tight day. 84. I guess maybe it was the 21st that we saw the big increase.
Yeah, 21 was a pretty volatile to the upside.
All right, let's run 21 here. Oh yeah, another thing I wanted to say was another reason besides the consensus nature of the UTX Oracle price is that it's not paper trading. Because although, most of the time you buy Bitcoin on an exchange and you withdraw it, it's fine. Sometimes you buy Bitcoin on an exchange and then you read in the news that the owner of the exchange faked his death on a trip to India, and the exchange doesn't have any Bitcoin.
Mm-hmm.
um, and so then what were those prices that exchange had? What were they prices of? If you don't withdraw your Bitcoin from an exchange, it's not really an exchange.
Right.
So prices you see on exchanges can include like a large amount of paper trading prices, which UTX Oracle, would never see.
Yeah, interesting. That's what I mean about like being, taken out of of a collateralized loan on a paper trade that wasn't
Yeah.
really ever
Oh
the
yeah.
consensus price. You know what I mean? Like
Oh
you fund a bunch of Bitcoin into a contract as collateral, and it's the Oracle is Coinbase, and Coinbase gets
yeah.
spiked down way
Because
more than
somebody's wow. So
like
somebody's just trading on credit and they're not actually making, and then they can wipe people out on
yeah,
margin when they never even actually
right.
exchanged any Bitcoin.
Right. That, I mean, that happens. That seems like it happens
Wow.
at least a couple times every cycle, where everyone's like, "Oh my God!" Like the market maybe was down 7%, but there's a print down 20% on Coinbase or Binance, and it wiped a bunch of people out.
Oh man, thank you for this.
But if
I
it was
never
like
thought
the
about that.
consensus price at the end of every day, right? If it was mark to market at the end of every day, instead of it'd probably be, or it was based on the consensus price of that day,
Yeah.
which is kind of the
Yeah.
way like traditional markets work,
Yeah.
because there's a closing price.
Yeah, there's a closing price. If yeah, I should actually explain how the consensus price is done. I've experimented with a lot of different ways of making averages. There's, as you know, I'm sure, there's a million different ways you can find an average of that data. But then I stumbled across a really natural way to do it. The way this consensus price works now is it looks at every single dot on this chart and it measures its distance to every single other dot. It's called
Mhm.
like a centroid algorithm. So this dot right here is like very far away from all of these dots. So its total average distance from all the dots is a lot. But a dot on this line, it's got a big distance to these dots, but it's got a small distance to all the dots on the line.
Mm-hmm.
So the centroid algorithm just says, tell me which dot has the smallest distance on average to every other dot.
Ah, okay.
So it's much better than doing some kind of algebra, because not only am I sure that this is a very good central price of the data, it's also an actual transaction. So there's no new data. I'm not creating a new number here. I'm using one of the transactions that is already in here. It's a very clean and natural way of doing an average, I think. So
Yeah.
I could every day like congratulate the one person that had ended up being the consensus transaction,
Right.
the
I was gonna say,
price.
you could just start like a little gaming
Right.
site.
Yeah,
Like,
exactly.
guess the consensus price for the day for
Right.
Bitcoin.
Yeah. this person sent $100 at the perfect average
Yeah.
price of the day.
Yeah,
Congrats.
exactly. Come pick up your free beer at Crafty.
Yeah, come free beer Crafty. Yeah.
Awesome. Wow,
Great.
this is really cool. There's going to be some really interesting implications from this.
I think so too.
I think we just got to get the right exchanges to say, hey, we want to think like Bitcoiners. We want to have a fair price, like we want to have truth in pricing. And this is like, if we start setting up contracts based on this consensus price, that's really fits with the Bitcoin ethos, I believe.
I love your idea of protecting against these liquidation wipeouts with kind of like basically not real trades.
Right.
That's a great idea. That makes me even more excited. Yeah.
Cool. I hope. I mean, I think it'd be a great way to get people there, right?
Yeah, I think so.
If we all centered on UTC time, and especially some of because this is the first asset that has global 24/7 pricing,
right?
Where you're not jumping from one exchange to the next, or one exchange to the next.
Yeah, and people are like, well, do people send around Bitcoin dollars, at 3 a.m. U.S. time? The answer to that is yes. Like I've watched this thing. So on the YouTube thing, if you go to YouTube Live, you can just scroll back on the YouTube window and you can watch what was happening at 3 a.m. And yeah, there's lots of USD prices. It's a little bit lower on Saturday and Sunday. Like surprisingly, there's fewer price points on Saturday than Sunday than there is Wednesday at 3 a.m.
Right.
Yeah.
That's cool. Well, I want to introduce you to a couple of people that know a lot more about trading than I do.
Okay.
Let's see where it goes for you. Steve,
right.
This has been awesome. I appreciate you sharing everything you've built with us, and look forward to a bright future for you. And are you going to be in Vegas or anywhere I'll see you in person soon?
I have some plans. Crafty's having our anniversary party. I'll be slinging beer at my own bar during Vegas. I am going to be at the Texas Energy and Mining Council conference a couple weeks before. But actually, if someone hits me up from Vegas and wants me to present UTXOracle on some side stage, I might see if I can make it last minute.
Cool.
But
that would be cool.
Yeah, I need a little more motivation to get out of Vegas.
I hear you. I hear you. Not my favorite venue, but
yeah.
But looking forward to see all the Bitcoiners out there.
Yeah, I like the small conferences.
Yeah,
but just conferences are great. Just
Awesome. All right, my friend. Thank you very much.
All right, Paul. Thanks very much.
Like and subscribe, guys, and make sure you find UTXOracle online and check out all Steve's work. Thanks, bud.
Thanks.
So you've heard Bitcoin is the new gold rush by now. As world leaders on all sides have endorsed it as the future of money, and now you're looking to get started, we'll show you how. It's actually easier than you think. First, go to your nearest Byte Federal ATM and turn your cash to coin. Byte Federal has over 1,200 locations around the country with the highest daily limits. Go to our website, bytefederal.com, to find the nearest ATM to you. Log in to any wallet, then create an account, deposit your US cash, and instantly convert it to Bitcoin. That's it. We are the only US manufacturer and operator in the Bitcoin ATM industry, and our US-based live customer service is second to none. Go on, give it a whirl, and don't get left behind. Click the link below.